The Elite Four are the toughest trainers in the Kanto region. Before you can even challenge them, you first need to earn all 8 badges. Is that something the Elite Four themselves could do? To find out, I'm playing as each Elite Four member in Fire Red and attempting to make my way back to Indigo Plateau. The rules are as follows. I start the game with the Elite Four members' Pokemon in their base forms and can only evolve the ones they did. I match the current gym leader's healing items, and for the first few attempts at least, must match their team size as well. I only have 5 attempts per battle, and will consider a run failed if any battle takes more than that. Finally, I play on set mode. Quick disclaimer, this video is obviously heavily inspired by Adef's video, but the rules here are quite a bit different, so I'm confident this will be an interesting challenge as well. Before we begin, which of the Elite Four members do you think is going to do the best? We begin as Lorelei, the first Elite Four member.
Ready?
Though I have a sneaking suspicion that she might be the strongest. If nothing else, she's the only one with 5 different Pokemon. You know, the way you're supposed to do it. Being her ace, Lapras needs to be on my team at all times, but I will attempt to use other Pokemon first, just to give them some time in the spotlight. Against Brock, for example, though Lapras could blow him out of the park with 2 simple water guns, I want Shellder to give it a try instead. After all, that shell has some decent defense. Icicle Spear is only super effective, instead of super duper effective like water moves, but a few hits knocks out Geodude easily enough. Onix is a fool, refusing to use the super effective Rock Tomb since he sees that as a stat changing move, and Onix already outspeeds. This gives Shellder plenty of time to Icicle Spear thrice for the win. If only Skill Link were a thing in Gen 3, that would have been even easier. Misty shouldn't be too much harder, but her resistance to water and ice isn't amazing. This time, I bring along Slowpoke to yawn Staryu. Then, she simply begins to curse. She doesn't have any strong attacking moves right now, but with such boosted attack, hopefully it all works out. Even so, thanks to Staryu's hardens, Tackle still isn't amazing. Eventually Slowpoke ends up with +4 attack, needs to use our only super potion, but defeats Staryu. Starmie, on the other hand, just starts water pulsing. After a hit or 2, I try another curse to avoid getting the star into healing range, but it does just enough to knock me out. That's not really a problem though, as Lapras is raring to go. Several body slams, broken up by a Confuse Ray, and heal, on Misty's part, she wins, having taken virtually no damage. What I tell you, Lapras is awesome. Even more so once I replace the gun with the pulse. Which sounds like a downgrade when you say it that way, but it's quite a bit better. You might think Surge with his electric types would be an issue, but I'm not really concerned. I haven't used Seal yet, so let's give her a chance to Icy Wind, which she fails at. Come on, girl. I mean, she does hit the second one, and I really only needed a single speed drop, but still. Lapras comes out again, fails to defeat Voltorb in a single hit thanks to Seal's miss, and is crit. Yeah, I'm blaming that all on the Seal. In my eyes, Lapras can do no wrong. At least that speed drop lets Lapras outspeed. Pikachu never even gets a chance to attack. I'm afraid that Lapras has met her match against Raichu. Raichu starts with a Thunder Wave, which immediately immobilizes Lapras. That's not great. She does survive Shockwave at least, and even confuses the rodent. That would not have been a game changer if Surge had just left it alone. But he decides to full heal the confusion, giving Lapras just the turn she needs to Water Pulse one more time for the win. See? I told you Lapras was basically perfect in every way. And you can get not perfect Pokemon videos, but still pretty good ones, by subscribing to the channel. And you might as well like, hype, whatever the heck that is, and consider becoming a YouTube or Patreon member as well. I appreciate all of it. My main plan for that fight was actually a Jinx, who is my only Pokemon not weak to electric, but Lapras apparently didn't want to share the glory. As a way to make it up to her, I teach Jinx Psychic. I know I've complained about this in the past, but it still makes 0 sense to me that Jinx can't learn that on her own. With that new move, which kinda feels like a wasted TM, she absolutely wrecks Erika. Victory Bell is Psychicked, she saves an Ice Punch for Tangela, and another Psychic for Vileplume. I know I've been praising mostly Lapras so far, and for good reason, but Jinx is also an incredible Pokemon. They are among my favorite ice types. I buy a Water Stone, and then once Shelder learns Protect, for a future event, get one of my not favorite ice types, Cloyster. I don't hate her or anything, but she ain't no Lapras, I can tell you that much. She does have better defense though, so I bring her along in the battle against Koga and his poison types. She starts with a withdraw, before surfing his first Coughing into the abyss. She hits Muck a few times, and almost KOs it, but Koga heals. And with all his minimizing going on, along with that Toxic, leaving her in just isn't worth it. Slowpoke tries to compete with Jinx as a Psychic type, but it doesn't work out so well. She does yawn Muck though, making it easier for my real Psychic type to win, after a miss and a poison, of course. I swap to Cloyster on the second Coughing to Hyper Potion Jinx. I have a feeling I'll need her once Wheezing comes on out, which proves to be accurate. A single Psychic defeats Koga's ace without any difficulty. For Sabrina, Slowbro reprises her role of yawning and then cursing. It kind of worked for Misty. Let's see if it does any better this go round. 2 curses should do it, and I don't want to anger Sabrina too much. Return is a tad stronger than her tackle was, so it works a lot better. Kadabra's future sight is still plenty strong though. After Venomoth survives the first hit, I consider cursing, in 2 ways, but I let Sabrina waste her heals here instead. The Moth's leech life was really quite pathetic after all. Mrs. Mime is one shot after a Calm Mind. And because that worked out so well, Sabrina tries it again with Alakazam. The end result is the same. You'd think someone who can see the future would have known better. Since Slowbro is one of the few Pokemon on my team who resist fire moves, let's bring her along against Blaine. Why not? Well, because the biting Growlithe, and then Arcanine, take her out far too easily. Cloyster gives it a try, and never even gets to attack. Thanks, Fire Blast. Let's give the newly evolved Dugong a chance to redeem herself. I still remember that Surge fiasco like it just happened 10 minutes ago, when in fact, it was 4 minutes. At least she's fat enough to resist fire, encouraging Arcanine to use Takedown, which works very well for me. Ponyta is surfed, no prob, though Rapidash jumps above the waves. She survives the hit, heals, survives another hit, heals again, and survives the third hit too. 1 flinch and paralysis later, Dugong eventually connects with another surf to finally beat Blaine. Since Lapras has been sidelined for most of this episode, I unleash the Plesiosaur against Giovanni's ground types. She begins with a Rain Dance, because it's fun, before surfing Rhyhorn. Now, that rain boost wasn't needed for him, or the second higher level Rhyhorn, but it was needed for Nidoqueen, and quite possibly the King too. The rain wears off as Dugtrio comes out, not that it matters. Lapras survives that quake, earning the final badge and allowing us to finally challenge the Elite Four, to hopefully move up in their ranks. Now, it doesn't make a ton of sense for Lorelei to battle herself, but I'll do it anyway. And again, I lead with Lapras, who I've been holding back for the most part. She has learned Thunderbolt, that unfortunately is just too weak to be a 2-hit KO against Dugong. I considered using Rain Dance and Thunder instead, but it wouldn't have changed things all that much. It takes a few rounds of bolts, but Dugong simply can't stand up to the awesomeness of Lapras. Nor can Cloyster with her crappy special defense. Anticipating an Amnesia, Lapras Paris songs because I don't want to fight a super defensive female bro. Thanks to a crit Thunderbolt, I needn't have worried. But then, the awesome Jinx turns on me, putting Lapras to sleep. Ugh, I needed to swap anyway. By the way, all our Pokemon's levels exactly match. We're both Lorelei after all. I'm hopeful that with Return, my Slowbro can defeat Jinx, but she immediately puts her to sleep. Come on. Return wasn't even all that strong either. She falls asleep again, but this time wakes right up to curse. I guess I should heal her now, huh? Several sleep turns later, she wakes up again, knocking out the offensive Jinx. I heal for the final time, right before Lapras freezes her. Well, that was bad timing. She thaws quickly enough, and with a curse or two, gets Lapras at death's door, only for Lorelei to heal. I no longer can though. With that, our 2 Laprasi face off against each other. Hers body slams, while mine thunderbolts. It's unfortunate that hers outspeeds, though it doesn't matter in the long run. Mine proves to be superior. I'd like to point out that this was, by far, the most difficult battle of Lorelei's challenge. It's ironic that the only person who can really stand up to her is herself, because Bruno certainly can't. He is objectively the worst. Jinx is like tailor-made to destroy him, what with Ice Beams for Onix's, and Psychic for Hitmonchan. Then again, I did have to give her that move. Machamp is a tad too strong for that Psychic, cross-chopping Jinx right out. Hey, I was in the middle of showing how sucky you are, Bruno. Don't try to prove me wrong. Slowbro, use your Psychic to teach him a lesson. And Hitmonlee too, after delaying several rounds with full restore. That Mega Kick was decently powerful though, but nowhere near enough. Take that, Bruno. For Agatha, the objectively smart thing would be to again use Jinx and Psychic her entire team. Failing that, I could Psychic with Slowbro. I, being smart, SMRT, choose to Curse and Shadow Ball instead. What? I need to make things more interesting for you, don't I? It takes a few hits for the plan to actually work. And with a biting Golbat, well, it wasn't a very good plan anyway. Slowbro still does take it out after double flinches. She even defeats Arbok in spite of her bite. The second Gengar, not so much. Again, Jinx would be the obvious choice here, but Agatha would be expecting that, and Cloyster hasn't done much recently, or at all. She uses Ice Beam, hoping for a freeze. That doesn't work. Between another beam and a Surf though, she surprises everyone, even me, by beating Agatha's ace. And just when it looks like she was about to fall to Haunter, that ghost uses Curse and is Ice Beamed, letting Cloyster stay alive with 3 remaining HP. Hey, that was great! Lance, the so-called strongest member of the Elite Four, has only one Pokemon that concerns me, and it isn't Gyarados. Since Lapras thunderbolts that flying fish, no problem. The issue is Aerodactyl. As long as he doesn't Omni Boost Ancient Power or crit, I should be fine though. Neither of those things happen, and a freeze at just the right time lets Lapras defeat it. 2 Ice Beams knocks out the flightless dragons without any issues. A third hits the flying variety, who admitted defeat, wasting his turn with Safeguard. So yeah, Lorelei, quite easily, mind you, has surpassed all of the other Elite Four members, proving that she deserves to be at the very top, where I might as well fight for champion rights. Since Lorelei starts with a water-type Lapras, Blue has Venusaur on his team. Cloyster should be able to handle this bird easily enough, what with her super high defense and Ice Beam. It's not a one-shot, but it works out well enough. Rhydon is then immediately surfed. For Venusaur, Cloyster shows off the move that delayed her evolution, Protect. Almost any of my cold Pokemon could beat Venusaur, but doing it by blocking his only attacking move is next level. Alakazam is less than impressed though. Slowbro then defeats the mustachioed spoon holder with Shadow Ball, taking a Psychic pretty well. The Future Sight next turn is another thing entirely. Come on, you could have used anything there, Arcanine. Why taunt my super slow girl? Okay, Dugong, let's see if you can do this. After 2 Surfs and 2 Extreme Speeds, Dugong is the only one left standing. Or slithering or something? I don't know. Either way, this brings out Blue's final Pokemon, Gyarados. And I still have my 2 strongest Pokemon in the back. But Dugong wants to try a sheer cold before calling it quits, which works on the very first try, defeating Blue and becoming the new Kanto champion in, inarguably, the coolest possible way. This was not a surprise to me in the slightest. I've always believed Lorelei to be the strongest Elite Four member, so beating the game without a single loss, well, it was inevitable. And that's with me messing around more often than not. It would have been far too easy to blow through all of these battles with mainly Lapras and Jinx, so I chose not to. I know it's still early in the video, but other characters will be hard-pressed to match up to Lorelei. After experiencing life at the top, it's time to fall down into the muck and become my least favorite Elite Four member.
I'm Bruno of the Elite Four.
His fighting Pokemon are mostly fine, though Hitmonchan's elemental punches are less than useful in Gen 3. My real issue is the double Onix. What a waste of Elite Four space. Not that I have a choice in the matter, so let's get started. For Brock, it would be a simple thing leading with any of my fighters to destroy his team. So naturally, I use an Onix instead. What? I need to use this Rock Snake when he's still halfway decent. Okay, quarter-way decent is more accurate. It's not a super fun battle, his Geodude against my Onix, but with Screech, Onix clearly has the advantage. Defense Curl makes this take longer than I'd like, but Onix is victorious in the end, only to face off against a higher level Onix. but Brox's doesn't have Screech for some reason, putting mine in a much better position. After 4 Screeches, the first one missed, his Onix is at -6 defense. So behold, the power of Rock Throw. Oh yeah, that was slightly more than I expected, honestly. Between a number of those Pebble throws, and Bind doing some chip now and again, my Onix single no-handedly earns the very first badge. That first one wasn't in any doubt. The second one though, we'll see. In preparation for the beast that is Misty, and for kicks and giggles, I used the move tutors just outside of Cerulean to teach Mega Kick to the Punchy Chan, and Mega Punch to the Kicky one. It seemed like a thing Bruno would do, but I'm also doing it for a reason. Hitmonlee is my best bet against Misty, and I'd rather he have the higher accuracy move compared to Hitmonchan. The lower attack seemed worth it. He starts with a Meditate against Staryu, takes a Water Pulse hit, and high jump kicks the not yet Psychic Star. The Psychic Star will obviously resist fighting, but 2 Mega Punches should be enough, or he could completely miss the first one. That's what I get for teaching punching moves to a kicker. He does hit the second time, proving that he could have won, but Starmie has none of it. Okay Machop, time for your quite pathetic debut, since he only has fighting moves. That didn't quite work out as I had hoped. Again, I need to have his ace on my team at all times, but I'm confident that I can win again without making any real changes. I just need a bit more luck. We start the same way we did before, meditating on Staryu before drop kicking it. This time, however, the 2 punches hit. Lee is not confused, thank goodness, winning the second badge with only a single loss. That's certainly not horrible. For Surge, I am again asking for Onix's support. Not for Voltorb, that Sonic Boom would be far too powerful against Onix, so Machop needs to chop him up first. Pikachu double teams, which doesn't help him in the slightest. Though it does paralyze the gutsy Machop, making him more powerful than Surge can possibly imagine. His defenses are still a bit lacking though, as Raichu immediately takes him out. That's fine. I have Digix, the Onix, for this very reason. His attack may not be great, that's an understatement, but Raichu's defense isn't either. He tries some double teams and a very powerful quick attack, but virtually any ground Pokemon can destroy most of Surge's team, and Onix is no exception. I'm mostly surprised Machop actually made it to Raichu in the first place. I don't have particularly high expectations of Hitmonchan right now, but since I haven't used him at all, I give him a chance to fight Erika. I know Victory Bell is going to attempt a paralysis, so the Chan does the same with Secret Power. Victory Bell succeeds in her attempt, Chan does not. With Stab, Revenge does a bit more damage, but Chan still can't make it. Okay, time to bring out Hitmonlee again to return a single time. Lee takes a turn to meditate against Tangela, and being only grass type, this lets him Brick Break the Vine Tangle. One good thing about Hitmonlee in this battle is his Limber ability prevents paralysis, making him a fairly decent Erika counter, unlike the failed Chan. 2 hits defeats Vileplume, earning our 4th badge without even showing off the newly evolved Machoke. Don't worry though, we'll get a chance to see him in all his glory against Koga. We see even more of him, as a matter of fact, thanks to his 4 arms. 2 secret powers, including a Guts one, defeats his first Coughing. I'm hoping for paralysis on Muck, and it works! He minimizes, but a second hit knocks him right out. Machamp is getting pretty close to death now, and I don't want to lose Guts. Instead, I swap to Digix and use a Hyper Potion. Digix is toxic as a result, but I still believe he can do it. He starts with a Screech, and that's literally all he manages to do. Digix is being spammed by Smokescreen, so he never hits anything else. Fine, there's no reason to waste a perfectly good sacrifice, it'll let Hitmonlee knock Coughing right out. Now, I don't think he can defeat the defensive tank that is Wheezing, and I've gotta hand it to me, my assessment was correct, but Machamp comes out to overkill, Guts Hyper Beam that ugly bag of gas. With Koga down, I can't put off the Sabrina battle any longer, and I've been dreading this fight. If Bruno's gonna get stopped anywhere, it's right here. Her Kadabra isn't too much of a concern, since Hitmonlee outspeeds and knocks it right out. The same should happen with Mr. Mime. Or not quite, but hey, it gives Lee a chance to meditate for all the good that will do against the outspeeding Alakazam. Now, some days, Sabrina, for reasons I cannot possibly fathom, uses Future Sight instead of Psychic. And today is one of those days. I don't know why she avoids Psychic, but now I won't die. And with that plus attack, another return defeats Venomoth, taking with her Bruno's toughest gym leader. With her gone, it should be smooth sailing for the rest of this episode. Last time I used Hitmonchan, it was less than ideal. I want to give her another shot though. He actually has decent special defense, so surviving a Fire Blast from Blaine's Growlithe isn't an issue. And Revenge knocks it right out, even with that Intimidate. Hey, your first KO, Hitmonchan. Good job. And that's basically all I needed him for. Well, that, and to use Rain Dance to weaken all of Blaine's fire moves. Ponyta doesn't really like the rain, and bounces right on his head a la Super Mario. Okay, Digix, who somehow outspeeds a fire horse, let's rock slide it out. Arcanine, unfortunately, has Bit, which is a 2-hit KO, being special in Gen 3. Not before Digix screeches though. Machamp can then low kick Arcanine, who is surprisingly heavy. At 341 pounds? That's a big dog. Rapidash also tries the blast. The rain is long gone by now, but even without a downpour, it's still not enough. Good job there, team. But we can't rest yet, not when we're so close to the Elite Four. Only Giovanni remains now, allowing me to use my entire team. Okay, let's do this. A single low kick knocks out his first Rhyhorn, no problem. Dugtrio avoids the first cross chop. He's too light to low kick after all. Also, he has no legs to sweep. It does some damage with Slash and Earthquake before falling. Nidoqueen resists a cross chop, and to make sure she's knocked out by Machamp, he Hyper Beams. And misses. Well, that was great. I wanted to beat Giovanni heelless, but I suppose not. Now at least Hyper Beam connects for the knockout. Nidoking has lower defense than his queen, and should fall to 2 cross chops if Machamp gets the chance. It looks like he might not, but he survives an Earthquake with a single HP. Now that's what I'm talking about. The second Rhyhorn is then low kicked like the first, allowing us to re-enter the Elite Four, and earn our place. After, Hitmonlee tries to learn Mega Kick. Man, I didn't want you to have this 7 gyms ago, I'm certainly not going to give it to you now. As incredibly strong as Lorelei is, we've already seen that, Bruno's fighting types do have a bit of an advantage. Lee's Brick Break may not be quite strong enough to OKO Dugong, so he takes a chance to meditate, achieving Zen, before trying again. Between Hail and Return, Slowbro gets down to half health. Even though this will put him to sleep, I'm hopeful another hit/hail turn will defeat her strongest Bruno counter. I would have been right if the hail had continued. It doesn't actually matter though, as Slowbro yawns again, not sure why, allowing Lee to wake up none the worse for wear. Cloyster obviously stalls with Hail and Protect, which is clearly not enough to counter the Lee. The Psychicless Jinx is taken right out, thankfully, while Lapras barely hangs on. Hitmonlee too, but a bit less barely. Lorelei heals, and since the hail is now gone, Hitmonlee stays alive to Brick Break 2 more times for the win. This doesn't mean that Bruno is better than Lorelei. Lorelei is still far cooler. Alright other, slightly more manly Bruno, let's do this. Machamp begins by low-kicking his giant Onix. The second one outspeeds with Earthquake, not that I'm concerned in the slightest. It didn't matter for the Onixes, but with that burn activating Guts, a single brick breaks Hitmonchan. But he's getting too close to death here, so I swap into the newly named Slider. He used to be Digix, but I felt a fresh name would do him some good. He at least manages to screech Hitmonlee, so that's something. My Lee is slightly higher level than his, it comes from soloing Lorelei, and with minus defense, Brick Break is all he needs. Machamp is a bit of a concern, especially with Bulk Up. Brick Break was already not incredibly strong, so Lee tries to boost his attack to counter the Bulk Up, but to no avail. This is my first time using this Onix, whom I forgot to name him, but I do soon. All he needs to do is screech a single time, which he manages. That was a short-lived debut. With the now -1 defense, I'm hopeful that Hitmonchan can Brick Break to finish the job. So clearly, it doesn't work. All I have left is Machamp to take on his. We both heal with a Citrus Berry, and as long as I outspeed, I can sweep the leg, as is Machamp's custom. And he does outspeed, meaning I win. I didn't expect to almost lose to Bruno, of all people, but I guess it goes to show you that even Bruno sucks when fighting Bruno. For Agatha, 2 of my fighters have kept Foresight basically this entire run. because I knew I would need it here. Not only does this allow Hitmonlee to hit ghost Pokemon with Return, it also negates any double teams that Gengar tries. So basically, a win-win. Agatha sees that as well though, and simply swaps to a different ghost. Well, so much for that plan. Or maybe I'll keep it going. Haunter is also identified, misses Hypnosis, thank goodness, falling to a crit return. For Golbat, I bring out my first Rock Snake, Slider, so named because he has Rock Slide, which is only useful if it actually hits. With Bites and Confusion, it isn't looking great for me, but Agatha does end up using a heal here, so I figure I might as well too. A crit flinch bite made that a totally wasted item. Oh well, I'll just use Hitmonchan to bait out an air cutter, countering it right back, assuming Golbat actually hits, and then assuming that Hitmonchan isn't confused and hits himself in the face. Well, that didn't work at all how I had planned. I wanted to save my Foresight yielding Hitmonlee for the ghosts, but it looks like he needs to clear up this mess that my other Pokemon left behind. I then swapped to Machamp to take on Gengar's Shadow Ball. He also has Foresight, but I didn't have another Return TM, and since Gengar is also a Poison type, Body Slam was the best move he could get. It works out though. I heal Machamp as the first Gengar reappears, another Foresight, Body Slam combo knocks it out too. Agatha's final Pokemon, this has been quite the battle, is an Arbok. Now Earther, previously known as Onix, has Earthquake, go figure. If nothing else, Onix has incredible defense, allowing him to survive 2 Iron Tails, albeit barely, while Arbok is quaked to the grave. I'm glad that battle is over. I have not been looking forward to it. Of course, Lance won't be much better. I start with Hitmonchan to get intimidated, and then swap to Slider so he starts with his normal, crappy, 45 base attack. Nothing a Screech, or 2, can't fix. Right as he's about to slide, well, Gyarados doesn't want to let him. Fine, I'll use my first heal here, right at the start. Why not? He needs to hit at least 1 Rock Slide, right? And it still wasn't enough. Oh my goodness. At least the waterless Gyarados Dragon Rages instead of Bite, so no flinches this time. Slider screeches Dragonair as he dies, or at least tries to. Hitmonlee shows off his great special defense again, tanking an Outrage to double Brick Break. Of course, Aerodactyl would totally beat him, but Earther with Iron Tail? Well, it's still not nearly enough. More damaging than Aerodactyl is doing to him though. With a Screech, a follow-up tail is now enough. And unlike Slider, Earther actually does Screech while being outraged. Good thing too. Hitmonlee only has 1 Brick Break left. Not that it would do any good against Dragonite, which is by far Lance's scariest Pokemon. Hitmonlee outspeeds with Return, and that's the last thing he does. I would love it if Machamp's Body Slam paralyzed, which it does. Perfect! I can totally win this now. Or not. I expected more from that second Body Slam. While I do technically have one last Pokemon, and he even has an Ice move, but Hitmonchan's special attack is even lower than Onix's attack. Suffice it to say, his Ice Punch barely registers as 4 times effective. My last hope here is counter. If Chan can survive a wing attack, I'd win. He does not, however, so I don't either. Dang it, I didn't want to have an Elite Four loss at all, but here we are. There are a few changes for attempt number 2. First, rather than waste a heal on Slider, I allow Gyarados to knock it out. That way, Hitmonlee finishes it off, baiting out Aerodactyl. A few quick pivots, first to Earther on a wing attack, then Hitmonchan on an ancient power. Maybe he can survive an Arrow's wing attack. And he can, countering perfectly. That's what it should have done to Dragonite. This then makes Dragonite start an Outrage for some reason. Outrage is quite a bit easier for Machamp to handle, and he has Rock Tomb too. 2 of those very nearly defeats Dragonite, but not quite. I hope his sacrifice just now isn't in vain. For reasons beyond my understanding, Lance now chooses to not heal his Dragonite, meaning I can take it out. And with it gone, well, the rest of the battle is simple. Dragonair number 1 is double Brick Breaked with a single Dragon Rage in between, while the second one is simply crit to the grave. Oh man, talk about a tough battle, but we did it. So Bruno did, with some difficulty, overcome all of the other Elite Four members. But what about the champion? You know, the guy who somehow did all of this literally right before me? I start with Earther, who unfortunately does not have any rock moves. He does have Rock Head though, letting him double edge without any recoil damage, because that was totally worth it. He screeches a bit and almost knocks out Pidgeot, but is Feather Danced and Sand attacked way too much. So I pivot to Slider and right back again. With fresh stats and clean eyes, Earther knocks it out, and very quickly meets his match in Rhydon, which is fine. His death lets Machamp low kick a giant rock monster one final time. Once again, Alakazam is quite scary, especially after a Reflect, but Machamp hits through it with a crit body slam. Nice! The only problem is, I don't want him out right now with Reflect still active. Rock Tomb would be quite powerful against Charizard, but not quite enough. I did save Slider for this purpose, however. I mean, I kind of hoped for a wing attack, not a Fire Blast that burns, so that didn't buy me all that much time. With no choice left, I decide to just Rock Tomb to at least slow it down. Too bad Machamp couldn't do any more. But now that Reflect wears off, Hitmonlee comes out to return the Fire not Dragon. He meditates a few times against Executor, who thankfully doesn't have any attacking psychic moves, but needs to get healed several times. It should be okay. I have 4 full restores in this battle after all. Return leaves the Coconut with a sliver of HP, meaning it's Blue's turn to heal. Again, and again, and again, until he finally runs out. Last, he has Gyarados, but even with Intimidate, a single crit return seals my victory, as Bruno, against all odds, somehow becomes the champion of Kanto. Okay, I guess he deserves a little bit of praise now. He did achieve the impossible. So remember this moment, guys. It's the only time I plan on saying anything positive about Bruno. Here we go. Bruno, you were not as bad as you could have been. Now that was a hard thing to say. It aged me like 50 years and turned me into a girl. Because next up, we have the old lady, Agatha.
Oh, Gengar!
As much as I like the Gengar line, having 3 of them is a tad overkill if you ask me. And her other 2 Pokemon? Well, we'll have to see. Thankfully, right before the level cap for Brock, Ghastly learns how to swear like a sailor. You better get used to that move, because I'm going to use it a lot. It all but guarantees my victory here, but there's no need to curse out Geodude, as his only attacking move is Tackle, which is less than effective against Ace. Not that her Lick does much to the rock either. Countless turns later, I am finally able to answer the age-old question, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Geodude? The answer is 11. As soon as Onix appears, Ace does curse. She also tries to hypnotize to stall a bit more, but fails and is rock tombed back to her grave. That was to be expected, but with Intimidate, Ekans can easily survive. All she needs is a single turn, and that was an easy first gym. I hope you're okay with that PG-13 language, because Agatha's ghosts have quite the potty mouth. Misty's Starmie doesn't need to hear it, however, as Ace has now learned Nightshade. 2 of those defeats her first star. For the Mii, Ace is confused by Water Pulse, but hits through it to curse. What else would she do? This leaves it all up to Ekans once again. She has Bite, but it's not nearly strong enough. Oh goodness. We both use our single Super Potion, and even with that curse, it's quite clear that Ekans will not win. With one more turn, she could have done it, but Misty isn't about to allow that, marking Agatha's first loss, and the second loss pretty soon after. On attempt number 3, I am now allowed to add one more Pokemon to my team. That way, when Ekans inevitably dies, I still have a Zubat. This go round, Misty has not used her heal, unfortunately, so it's still far from a guaranteed victory. But Zubat's Bite, coupled with Curse, does just enough to beat Starmie. Glad I didn't have to resort to getting another Pokemon, that would have sucked. For Lieutenant Surge, I again lead with Ace. She's really living up to her name. Voltorb has pretty low HP, falling in a double Nightshade after a pointless Screech. Pikachu suffers the same fate, though does paralyze Ace first. That's fine, things are going pretty well. Ace, as you might expect, then curses Raichu. This does make her succumb to Shockwave, but she was only my first Pokemon. Let's give a second, much lower level Ghastly a chance to Nightshade too. Turns out, Raichu is having none of it. Okay, Ekans, we are once again down to only you. Too bad Surge hasn't healed yet, and he chooses not to. Shockwaving instead, getting bit by my snake and dying to curse. Huh. Surge probably could have won there if he had chosen to heal. At this point, we get our first several evolutions. Ace becomes, inarguably, the best designed ghost Pokemon in existence, and if you disagree, you're just wrong. Ekans becomes a bigger snake, and Zubat, a bigger bat, but with eyes. My other two Ghastlies, however, do not yet evolve. They need to learn something first. For Erica, honestly, all you need to defeat her is a Golbat. This girl quad resists grass moves, and resists poison too. The only defense Erica has is a Stun Spore, but after getting her to use her Super Potion, and getting Victory Bell back down in health, I simply full heal Golbat to remove paralysis. Victory Bell is then a non-issue. Tangela tries to Ingrain, well, technically succeeds, but it doesn't help at all, falling in 2 wing attacks. Vileplume will again Stun Spore, and I could swap to any of my other grass or poison resistant Mons, but I decide to let Golbat shine. She hasn't done much yet this episode. She defeats Erica all on her own. Now, by the time we get to Koga, Ace has not only fully evolved, but also learned Psychic via TM. This makes her a perfect counter to Koga. Muck does survive the first hit, responding with 9 whole points of damage from Sludge. Whoa, talk about scary. Koga's bags of gas have pretty poor special defense, all falling in a single shot. Even Wheezing can't make it. Well, that was ridiculously easy. Sabrina's Psychic types, though, might be another matter. I start the battle with no friends, the Haunter who has been chosen to remain so, but evolving into Haunter a bit later in life gained her early access to Shadow Ball, which proved strong enough to one-shot Kadabra, her lack of a social life notwithstanding. Mr. Mime similarly falls. In the off chance no friends gets a turn, I try to Destiny Bond, but Alakazam doesn't pull any punches on the social outcast ghost. My only real chance here is to hope that Ace can do it. She may only have Shadow Punch due to evolving on time, and I won't raid the game corner till after this gym, but it's clearly strong enough. For Venomoth, rather than Psychic the Poison Bug, I play it safe with Curse and then Confusion, just in the off chance that Ace was defeated. She isn't, so I should have just Psychicked from the start. For taking on a Psychic gym with only Poison Pokemon, that went very well. On to Blaine, and it's time to unveil the third ghost Pokemon, Destiny. So called because this Gengar does have friends, but also knows Destiny Bond. Very unique name, huh? In spite of that, she starts with Rain Dance to both decrease fire damage, not that Growlithe did any, and ensure a hit with Thunder. It's not super effective or anything, but it's still a good option, especially when it paralyzes Arcanine. Nice. His bite is way worse than his bark, but I'd like Destiny to survive long enough to Rain Dance a second time here. Then again, after a heal, the rain dissipates, and Destiny wants nothing more than to die for the cause, while living up to her name. And who am I to deny Destiny the right to bond? She does it, taking out both our Pokemon. Arbok is next, who has Dig. The first hit is decently strong, just not enough to one-shot the pony. Blaine heals, as Arbok acids for some chip, and then digs Fire Lil Sebastian one more time. She also digs Rapidash a single time, but quickly succumbs to Fire Blast. You know what? Before sending out Ace, let's give no friends a chance here. All she really needs to do is outspeed with a Shadow Ball, which she does, though it's too weak, and a Fire Blast knocks her right out. No wonder you don't have any friends. I guess you can't send a Haunter to do Ace's job. She does now have Shadow Ball, by the way, ending the battle in one more hit. With Blaine down, I finally have access to my entire team. But where's the fun in that? I want Ace to solo Giovanni. So she has Giga Drain. It's especially good on little Rhyhorns. Dugtrio can just take a Psychic. The same is true for Nidoqueen, and her king as well. Finally, the second Rhyhorn is Giga'd, as Ace had an absolutely perfect final gym. She wasn't even hit. We've improved quite a bit since that Misty struggle, but is it enough to beat the Elite Four? Probably, but I still want some mystery here. For Lorelei, no friends leads the charge. She has learned Thunderbolt, which is more than enough to two-shot Dugong, who doesn't do anything important. Slowbro yawns, and I could swap to avoid that sleep, but knocking out the Amnesia Spammer seemed like a better option. After a Confuse Ray by Lapras, I full restore no friends to remove those status conditions. Now, Destiny Bond could work, unless Lapras confuses again, so to avoid that, I simply Thunderbolt, which paralyzes. Okay, I guess I might as well curse now. This lets Ace easily finish off Lapras with Thunderbolt, and then Cloyster as well. Finally, to counter Jinx's constant kisses, Ace uses Curse. I then swap to Arbok in the off chance she's able to Iron Tail, though she's promptly put to sleep. She does survive 2 Ice Punches, and wakes up only to miss. Well, that was anticlimactic. I use my final heal to try another Iron Tail, but an Ice Punch crit makes that pointless. Dang it. Destiny, can you finish this with a Thunder? The answer is no, but thanks to Curse, she ends up winning regardless. That was tough, Lorelei, as expected. Bruno, not so much. We start with a battle of snakes, my regular one against his rock one. Though we're both weak to Earthquake, and Onyx has the stab boost, its attack is absolutely atrocious, even more so thanks to Intimidate. The end result, my snake is victorious. She can't manage to defeat a second rock snake though. That's where Ace comes in, Giga Draining just because she can. Hitmonchan manages to slow her down with Rock Tomb, but a few Psychics and a Giga Drain defeat it while Gengar is again fully healed. Machamp opts to bulk up, not seeing a guaranteed KO with anything, allowing Ace to double Psychic. Hitmonlee uses Foresight, the same move that I used as Bruno against Agatha, but it's too little, too late. Bruno uses his final heal in an attempt to win, which was ultimately pointless. It's no surprise Bruno proved easy to overcome. For myself, I start with Golbat against her first Ghost. Bite isn't as strong as I would have liked, and I can't even flinch since Gengar is faster. But between Confuse Ray, Wing Attack, and another Bite, it all works out in the end. Agatha's Friendless Ghost, aka the Anti-Casper, is slower than Golbat, allowing her to get 2 incredible flinches as well as avoiding a Hypnosis. So she defeats the second Ghost too. The third clearly is too strong. Our aces face off against each other in the most anticlimactic of ways, as mine gets an immediate Psychic crit. Not that I'm complaining. Ace could have easily Psychicked her way through this old lady, but that didn't seem like a super exciting battle. Golbat is Thunderbolted, and I allow our Arbok to face off too. Not that it's a fair fight, since her Arbok is intimidated anytime she looks in the mirror and sees herself, and my snake just so happens to have Earthquake. So I am an even better old lady than Agatha. Good for me, I suppose? For Lance, I clearly lead with a Thunderbolt, in this case by Ace. She curses Aerodactyl before swapping into Arbok. That curse was probably not necessary, but the possibility of Aerodactyl getting an Ancient Power Omni Boost is always a concern. Thankfully, it did not happen, allowing Arbok to simply Iron Tail. She screeches Dragonite, which likely won't do all that much, but maybe it'll allow Golbat to get a lucky victory here. With Wing Attack and Poison Fang, even the -2 defense was not quite enough. Alright, no friends, let's just sacrifice yourself to Destiny Bond. Okay, that didn't quite work. Destiny Bond, take 2. That still didn't work. But now I think maybe no friends can simply Shadow Ball the dragon. It doesn't have much HP left after all. Of course, that also doesn't work, and then Dragonite doesn't hit himself. Well, that wasn't great. Since the dragon is stuck in Outrage now, Ace can simply Psychic though. The first Dragonair is double Psychicked, only safeguarding. Since she made it this far, Ace deserves a heal, wouldn't you say? Right before getting paralyzed. That's not really cool, but it doesn't end up mattering, Ace being as awesome as she is. Having surpassed all my so-called co-workers, Agatha seems like more of a loner to me, it's time to defeat the champion as well. Once again, I start with Ace, who, once again, simply Thunderbolts. Pidgeot survives the first hit to Wing Attack and heal before getting bolted properly. This brings out Blue's Alakazam, who is 6 levels lower than Ace, just getting straight up Shadow Balled. Gyarados, just like Lance's, is then Thunderbolted. Executor starts with Sleep Powder, and Ace stays asleep for far too long. While I could use one of my many full restores here, I decide instead to give someone else a chance. Namely, Golbat. She does pretty well against grass types after all. Case in point, an immediate Toxic by Poison Fang. Too bad she's put to sleep too. When I expect Blue will heal, I do the same, bringing Ace back to fighting shape. I'm still holding out hope for Golbat here, but a simple crit Egg Bomb dashes those dreams to pieces. Let's try Shadow Balling with Ace again. This time, Executor light screens instead of sleep powders, making it quite simple. Even with that light screen, the quad effective Giga Drain has to be enough to one-shot Rhydon, right? Well, why not? Because he survives and Scary Faces. I don't really care about that though. After all, when Charizard comes out, I swap to Arbok since light screen is still active. She intimidates, stalls out light screen, and well, that's basically it. Ace can now Thunderbolt, but is one shot by Fire Blast? I didn't expect it to be quite so strong. Okay, no friends, prove your worth. Take me to victory with a Destiny Bond. Or you could be too slow, that tracks. With her death, my Destiny falls, very appropriately, onto Destiny. As long as she outspeeds, and Thunderbolt is decent, I should win right here. And that's exactly what happens, as Agatha becomes the next champion of the Kanto region. She had a bit of a rough start with some of the gyms, and I had to rely on expanding her team once, but she still made it in the end, so good for you, old lady. This brings us to Lance, the Dragon Tamer.
And I especially look forward to seeing how good he really is.
Whose starting team, well, it's not amazing, to say the least. I have a feeling I'll have to rely on Aerodactyl for a while at the beginning. First, I give Ace a chance against Brock. Then again, with Wrap as his only attacking move, it's not a great start. Sure, he has Leer as well, but Geodude has Defense Curl, which perfectly counters that lowered defense. Eventually though, he can't even make it. Geodude defeats him with very pathetic tackles. This leaves it all up to Aerodactyl. While his attack stat is pretty amazing, Wing Attack is not very effective and doesn't do that much, especially with Geodude's defense curls, though it is strong enough in the end. Against Onix, however, Wing Attack is still pathetic, while his Rock Tomb is more than enough to take out my flying rock monster, marking Lance's loss at the very first gym. Doesn't seem like such a strong Elite Four member now if you ask me. On the second attempt, I again start with Ace, but this time he is just about to level up. I quickly swap into Aerodactyl, and as long as he defeats Geodude, I think I can win this without expanding my team. Geodude continues to Defense Curl, so I either need a lucky crit, or this will take forever. Spoiler alert, I don't get a crit. At least his tackle is pretty crappy too. With that added experience, Ace levels up to 15 and learns Twister, his first dragon move. Arrow gets off 2 wing attacks on Onix before being entombed in rocks. Alright Ace, let's see your new move. Twister is special, and coupled with Stab, it's actually pretty decent. A few hits is all it takes to defeat Onix, earning my first badge. Though starting with a loss was less than ideal. As much as I would love to have Gyarados for the Misty battle, her second Pokemon is only at level 18, so that fish is plumb out of luck. Ace and Aerodactyl it is once again. Ace starts off with Secret Power, getting a lucky crit to bypass Staryu's Harden. For Starmie, the most important thing he can do right now is Thunder Wave to guarantee a paralysis. He then gets triple Twisters, falling from the larger star. Aerodactyl is obviously weak to water, but hopefully he can still make it, especially with a paralysis flinch combo. I could do without that recover though, and confusion too. This has taken a turn for the worst. Arrow hits through confusion, but Bite fails to knock it out, instead getting a flinch, allowing one more confusion disregarded Bite to end her Starmie, earning our second badge first try. And here I expected to have to resort to a bigger team to win. At this point, now Magikarp can evolve, not that the Quad Electric Weak Fish will do anything in the Surge battle. Instead, I again lead with Ace, who has a new move he wants to show off, Dragon Rage, which, objectively speaking, is twice as good as Voltorb's Sonic Boom. Eat it, ya orb. It's even better against Pikachu. Raichu's Shockwave is definitely still strong, and since Dragon Rage is my main plan for this battle, I swap to an unnamed Dratini, giving me a chance to heal Ace. He also has Twister, but that's as much as he can do. He hasn't yet learned Dragon Rage after all. One more of those rages, even after a Shockwave crit, and Ace almost on his own defeated a gym leader. For Erica, Aerodactyl reappears, but this time he is the main Pokemon. Wing Attack just barely leaves Victory Bell alive, allowing it to paralyze. I considered bringing along Fly instead, but I really shouldn't need it. With 2 more wing attacks, Victory Bell is knocked out. Tangela has surprisingly good defense, also hanging on after a wing beating. While these Giga Drains aren't super strong, they are taking their toll on Arrow. For Vileplume, who also survives the wing attack, I considered healing Aerodactyl, but at the behest of Ace, I choose not to because he wanted to Dragon Rage a bit more. Eventually he's going to be my strongest Pokemon, so I'd better keep him happy. But he doesn't need to evolve just yet. Koga's coughing, like a fool, tries to poison Ace, who simply slips his skin to get out of it, Dragon Raging all the while. That was awesome. Muck is Thunder Waved in an attempt to prevent too many minimizes. Ace does incredibly well, almost defeating the Slime Ball, but his defenses are just lacking, and he is in fact sludged. Another still unnamed Dratini now also has Dragon Rage, and similarly gets mucked down to the red while also being sludged. Well, there go my 2 real dragons. Time to use the knockoffs. After a heal, Aerodactyl begins to Ancient Power. I'm obviously hoping for that elusive Omni Boost. Instead, I get poisoned. That's not what I wanted at all. Arrow still makes it, but it was closer than I would have liked. I swapped to Gyarados just in time for him to get blown up. That wasn't nice. I take the chance to heal Aerodactyl before swapping him back in. I have 1 more chance for an Omni Boost here, which doesn't end up working. Now Arrow gets down to Death's Door, so naturally, I heal the Gyarados. That way, he can come out to properly intimidate the Weezing. 2 returns make that attack drop a bit unnecessary, but it was a just-in-case kind of a thing. Sabrina's Kadabra starts this battle in the worst possible way, using Reflect. Now Gyarados can't simply return his way through her whole team. That's not fair. To stall it out, Dratini makes an appearance, and does manage to defeat Kadabra with Dragon Rages because it uses Future Sight. Mr. Mime's low HP, coupled with his special attack Greed, proved to be his downfall, as Reflect wears off and the Foresight hits. Okay, we now return to my original plan of returning with Gyarados for a single turn until he's confused. Sabrina really doesn't want me to unleash this Gyarados now, does she? So let's bring out Aerodactyl to simply wing attack Venomoth. He clearly outspeeds the Kazam, getting 2 Ancient Powers, while Alakazam tries and fails to remain calm. That didn't go at all how I had planned, but it still wasn't so bad. Okay Gyarados, let's try a Gym Sweep 2.0. This time, he'll rely on Surf to drown Blaine's Fire Mons. It works for Growlithe, as well as Ponyta. Rapidash does some chip with Fire Spin, and a quite pathetic Fire Blast if we're being honest, but nothing major. Not even Arcanine can take down Gyarados with takedowns, as my overly large fish surfed his way through that whole gym. But why stop at 1? First though, at level 50, Ace finally learns Outrage, a move that would have been out of reach for the most part had he evolved normally. He's still a few levels shy of being a true dragon, but Dragonair is the first step. In order to surf Giovanni's Pokemon, as he did to Blaine's, Gyarados first needs to start with a Rain Dance. That Scary Face was most unfortunate. It doesn't help either of the Rhyhorns survive though. Dugtrio is one-shot, and thanks to the rain, Nidoqueen is as well. It does wear off on the King, so I probably should have danced against Dugtrio instead. It doesn't matter, because in the end, Gyarados really wants this victory to himself, remaining at 1 HP through pure grit and determination, surfing 1 final time to earn the last badge. In order to make it back to the top of the Elite Four, well, Lance needs to start off at the bottom, against Lorelei, who is actually pretty concerning, not gonna lie. Aerodactyl starts off well enough, Ancient Powering Dugong. He does the same thing to Cloyster, with the second Ancient Power finally unlocking his true potential, getting the coveted Omni Boost. Nice. Rock Slide is still too weak to one-shot since Cloyster healed, and I get greedy going for another Ancient Power that is simply blocked. Well darn. He still knocks it out well enough. Jinx is then properly Rock Slid, no problem. Lapras too, though she survives the hit, which wouldn't be a big deal with Arrow's now plus special defense if Lorelei hadn't gotten a crit. That's lame. No worries though, my middle stage dragon, Ace, can simply Thunderbolt it. He paralyzes Slowbro, I totally saw that amnesia coming, and hands it off to Gyarados. Return is, honestly, quite pathetic. Come on you big fish, you're supposed to be strong. It doesn't help that I forgot to level him up. Oh well. We both take some time to heal, me twice, till eventually Gyarados ends up the victor. That was kind of rough though. But with that increased level cap, it's the moment we've all been waiting for. Ace becomes a true dragon, right on time for the Bruno battle. He still knows Surf, so goodbye Onix. Hitmonchan is then flown. Machamp can take the hit and begins to bulk up, which amounts to nothing. The Lee is also flown, and Onix surfed. That went really well there, Dragonite. Can you do it again against Agatha's Gengar? Okay, those missed Thunderbolts and Toxic weren't ideal, but I still believe in you. Or, never mind. I guess it's Aerodactyl's turn. Good thing he has Aerial Ace. The first one prompts a heal, but the second one knocks it out. I then swap into Gyarados to show Arbok what a real Intimidator looks like, and, to a lesser extent, to Earthquake the crap out of it. Okay Ace, come on back and try this again. It's only a Golbat, surely you can handle that. Between Confusion and Toxic damage, it would appear not. Fine, make me waste a heal here. You're supposed to be second only to Legendaries, man. Against Agatha's Ace, my Ace flies instead of bolting. The first hit works decently well, but Gengar is just too fast, waiting for him to land to then hypnotize. I swap to Eitless, the Dragonair, to shrug off poison and attempt an Outrage. It wasn't bad per se, just not good enough. Agatha heals, and that's the end of Eitless number 1. What about Eitless number 2? No, he really doesn't fare much better at all. Alright Aerodactyl, just bring us to victory here. The final No Friends Haunter takes her own life with Curse, rather than be stoned by Arrow. A wise choice, Agatha. This obviously brings us to the final Elite Four member, ourselves. And since dragons are particularly strong and weak to other dragons, this should be an interesting battle. Our Gyarados intimidate each other, but mine has Thunderbolt, so it's clearly superior. All it takes is 2 electrocutions. While Surf would do more to Aerodactyl, I'm hoping that a Thunderbolt will paralyze, but it does not, meaning Gyarados falls in 2 Ancient Powers. My own Aerodactyl outspeeds his to also Ancient Power. I then swap into Eitless on a Thunder Wave by Lance's Eitless, which should be okay since he has Shed Skin. It won't last long. Several turns and Outrages later, he still failed to shed. That was not great, but my second Eitless manages to Ice Beam, is paralyzed, and immediately cures it. Was that so difficult, first Eitless? He then outrages the second Dragonair, though it leaves him alive. Lance heals a number of times, and once Outrage wears off, Dragonair Ice Beams for the knockout. All Lance has left is Dragonite now, and clearly Eitless can't stand up to him. Ace has Ice Beam, however, which is even better than Outrage. It's not quite a one-shot, but 2 beams are more than enough, beating Lance's Pokemon with my near-identical, but clearly better, versions. For the champion battle, the 2 Eitless could have evolved, but I'll leave them as is instead. He should be strong enough, even without wings. Things start off quite well against Pidgeot, what with paralysis, though Blue heals. In the end, even with super effective Thunderbolt, Eitless succumbs to Aerial Ace. If that's how you want to play it, then fine. Eat Ancient Power, you big bird. Blue's Squirtle team is the only one I haven't battled against so far, so I decided to give him Blastoise, who very kindly outspeeds to Rain Dance, ensuring the other Eitless's Thunder connects. It still takes 3 hits, but all the while, Blastoise misses Hydro Pump after Hydro Pump. That was hard to watch there, Blue. Eitless hits a relatively weak Outrage on Alakazam, but simply can't go any farther. Gyarados can, with a simple Earthquake. Rhydon should have been surfed, but I guess I was too excited about using Earthquake. Gyarados still makes it out alive, but only barely. There's no need for him to fall, not when Arrow can tank Arcanine's extreme speed. He responds with Ancient Power, getting his second Omni Boost of the video. Another hit ends the dog. Executor clearly stands no chance here, but that doesn't stop Blue from trying. 3 full restores later, and multiple Aerial Aces, he finally runs out of steam and admits defeat, as Lance proves he has what it takes to become the Kanto champion. And I didn't even need to use Ace in that last battle either. Now, Lance had a bit of a difficult start to his journey. Losing to Brock, of all people, is pretty sad, but he still managed to make it. Okay, with all of the Elite Four members done, it's time for our final ranking to see who in fact should be the top. While they all technically became champions, for some, it was quite a bit easier. In last place we have, no, not Bruno, believe it or not, but Agatha. Though they both had 2 failed attempts, Agatha is the only one who needed an expanded team to win. That means that as much as it pains me to say it, perhaps Bruno is only the second worst Elite Four member, coming in at 3rd place. In 2nd place we have the so-called leader of the Elite Four, Lance. He may have only lost a single time, but I did have to resort to some level manipulation. This leaves as the true, undisputed Elite Four leader, Lorelei. Not only did she make it through the Kanto region easier than anyone else, I made it even harder on her by limiting her Lapras usage. It seemed only fair, as it's a pretty strong Pokemon, even more so in the early game. And that wraps it up. It's good to know that I've been right all along. Lorelei is the best. And as far as I'm concerned, Bruno is still pretty much the worst. But what rankings did you give the Elite Four members? I didn't include Blue in this video because to rank him properly, I'll need to use all 3 of his teams, and I'll save that for a dedicated video. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this and consider becoming a YouTube or Patreon member for early access to videos. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next region.